Hey, everybody, welcome into this edition of the Grittiest Take brought to you by True Philadelphian Sportscast. I am, of course, Joe Borg here with Steel Flyers. How you doing today, Steel?
Oh man, I am doing hockey. That's how I'm doing. How you doing?
Doing well, doing well. And what we're going to do is talking about all things Flyers this episode, and especially the Canadian series. This is going to be
Yeah.
one battle of a goalie matchup between Carter Hart and Carey Price, the guy who Hart has comparable stats to at such a young age. When Price came into the league and was just masterful at a young age. So to start off, I figured we should talk about the young Carter Hart going up against the guy who he's compared to at times in Carey Price. What do you think of that to start?
Well, I think it's also his mentor or somebody that he's looked up to.
Yeah,
Right? It's somebody that he has idolized and somebody he's tried to kind of model his game after and all that other stuff. You know what I mean? So, man, I'll tell you what. This is going to be the most intriguing goalie matchup I think of all of the playoffs right out of the gate. Because you got the young up and comer in Carter Hart, who has looked phenomenal. I I have never seen a goalie this young come in and just be, oh, okay, it's the first game of the round robin, no problem. Oh, it's the next game. Oh, it's this. Everything that's been thrown at him since day one, he has basically handled like a consummate professional. I've never seen a kid that young in such a uh, leadership type role as he has been, because he's been very front and center. He's done a lot of charity work where he's been out there, putting his face out there and stuff like that in the local community and things like that. So I think this is going to be the most intriguing matchup of all of the playoffs, based off of the fact that Carey Price, I think, was the lone reason why the Canadians beat the Pens,
yeah.
because he basically played like a Vezina Trophy winning goalie
Which he,
and
by the
just
way, has never done.
right.
Yeah,
Which is that's why I said that, because it's
yeah,
I was going to say he's never won one, but he played like one.
yeah,
And man, I'll tell you, he was definitely the main reason why the Canadians moved on. And I think he's also put the team on his back and said, okay, this is where you guys want to go. All right, this is where we're going to go. And I'll do the best I can to try and get you there. Montreal they have matchup problems when it comes to our lines and our depth and our scoring. I don't think their defense matches up very well, but I think they are going to give us fits. Um, but that to me is the most intriguing matchup of the whole playoffs, is that goalie matchup right there between Price and Carter Hart, because you have the young up and comer and you have the guy who's been around the block a few times, has been around the peg, you know what I mean, and has gotten his team to where he's gotten them based off of how he's played.
yeah, yeah. And bringing up the numbers for him, you have in the matchup, you have Carey Price had a 2.79, 909 goals against, and four shutouts this year. The Hart had a 914, 242, and one shutout with a 24-13 and 3 to a 27-25 and 6. Obviously, a record is very swayed for Price playing for the team he played for. But Carey Price is also a guy, it's nice to see him step up in the first round because he's had flashy playoff series, but his playoff stats are not as flashy for the regular season all timer he is as you would think they are. So it was nice to see him have that great first round and have another carrying weight. But for the Flyers, I agree with you. Carter Hart's a guy that's never on or never phased by anything. He's always unfazed, and he's a guy and a kid that's just going to continue to keep getting better and better. And I'm trying to look up because it wouldn't come up for me on my computer because it wasn't my computer's been slow recently with loading. So
Uh-oh.
I've been trying to look up on my phone what his quality starts were because obviously when you look at
For
that,
Price.
Well, for Price, that's one thing, but I also wanted to look at for Hart because when you look at that, that helps. His quality start percentage was a 62. So that's a pretty high.
Carter Hart's.
Yeah, that's a
Carter
pretty
Hart's.
high quality start percentage. Yeah.
Yeah, and he played in since we had a much shortened season, and he played in, gosh, what, 3/4 of the season he played? I
Yeah, he
mean,
played in a lot of the season, and carries was a 53. So like he was still over 50. So that's respectable for that
that
team.
is very
Short,
respectable
yeah.
for that team. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm going to go with what you said, man. I think that he has, and we touched on it before. We've talked about this numerous times ad nauseum, how the maturity level of Carter Hart. Nothing phases him. He's been able to handle everything that's been thrown at him. And this is going to be the first test because I think this is another level of hockey. We are now in the playoffs, and this counts. I'm not saying that the other stuff didn't count, but this is win or go home. Okay. And I don't look, I think we're going to see another level. I don't think we've seen the best of the Flyers yet. I don't think we've seen the best of Carter Hart yet. We had 3 games where we utterly dismantled the top 3 teams of the Eastern Conference. Like they basically like they were just, okay, what? Tampa Bay, check. Okay, Boston, what? Okay, check. Washington, okay, check. What?
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I think the Flyers also didn't show all their cards because I know Jamie and I talked about it on the phone one night. They played a more Boston Tampa esque game of using skill in the passing. They never played their net front's presence game too much in the round
No,
robin. So
no.
if they start playing more brute like and showing that net front presence, it's going to be more of a catch off guard because AV tried to do a little bit of an incognito thing and delay playing all around and kind of just play to the strengths you can play to
Strength, yeah.
win the round robin. Yeah. You're going to play to the
That'll
strengths of the series, and to beat the Canadians, you're going to want to use more bruising tactics because they have bigger guys in that lineup. Where in the round robin, you have more skilled teams other than Boston, but Boston didn't have everybody at full bore yet. So
right.
that,
I mean, what I was actually going to add onto that was the fact that we had secondary scoring. The top line did not score 1 goal. Not a goal from G, not a goal from Couturier. I think they had a couple of assists, but no goals for them guys. And the power play looked a little peaked. We'll
yeah,
say
I
that.
think that's what comes back the latest for a lot of these teams. A lot of teams' power plays.
I have faith.
Yeah,
I have faith. We didn't have very many power plays, and the only way to get better at power plays is when you have a lot of them.
yeah,
So as long as our PK, which we were, gosh, what I think we gave up 1 or 2
yeah.
total.
And also, what's more important in the playoffs is 5-on-5, consistent 5-on-5 play than if your power play is doing well. Because look at Edmonton. If it was all off of if your power play is doing well, they would be in the second round. They would actually be in the qualifier right now, not Chicago. So
Exactly.
it definitely doesn't just go off of your power play. So as long as your 5-on-5 is
Right.
playing like one of the best in the playoffs, if your power play is just doing adequate, you should be fine.
What a 180-degree
Especially if your
turn.
PK is doing great. Yeah.
Yeah. What a 180-degree turn we've had. Just adding a different coach. I mean, we virtually have the same lineup. Virtually. I mean, with a couple of cogs that have gone away and a couple of cogs that have gotten better and come in. Okay. I mean, that's the natural progression of team. But for the most part, we've had the same basic core players. And when they are used correctly in a system that accentuates their skill sets, it's amazing how much better the team plays.
No, that's entirely true. And I know Jamie, when he tweeted something out earlier, he said after today's press conference, these are the lines he sees tomorrow. It would be This is just him speculating, but it'll be G. Cooch, Jake, Lotz, Hayes, TK, Fairby, Grant, Knack, JVR, Thompson, Pitlick. Provy, Niski, who's going to stay the same. Sanheim, Myers, and because of, like I said, more physicality in a series against the Canadians, it's going to be Hag and Braun most likely.
Yeah, that's what I was
Carter
thinking.
Hart. So that's something that I agree. I think that's a good move by AV. Robert Hag, you want a bigger guy in there against the defense of Montreal, so he's going to do things based off of matchups. But if we go up a lot in this year, like if we do really well in the series and we're up 3-0, I wouldn't be shocked if Ghost gets that last game because even Jamie tweeted another tweet earlier. I know he said Ghost could get a game, and even in that, he said Ghost may get a shot later in the series. It sounded like, in my opinion. So that would be interesting to watch and follow as well.
I agree. No, I agree 100%. And I think that was a great point that you brought up their lines too, because that's basically the lineup they went with pretty much most of the year. I mean, for the most part.
Once they acquired those guys, yeah.
Well, right. But I mean, with the exception of Grant and Thompson, but once they acquired those guys, they pretty much stayed in the lineup since they were acquired. Right.
Yeah,
and exactly. Oh my gosh. And the fact that the fourth line has kind of been the one line where it's been an interchangeable a little bit, where we've had Scotty Lawton back down there and we've had Knack there. We've had, some of the other players that have come up there, and we've moved players around. Farabee kind of went up and down a little bit and played on the top line and then played on the fourth line. I mean, you know what I mean? So we had the fourth line was more of this is the line where we're going to change around and do some things with, but the top two or so lines pretty much stayed the same. So bringing up that, I think is a good point too, because I also agree. We need the beef. We need the guys that I tell you what, your crew, Flyers Nitty Gritty. By the way, checking me out.
Yeah, it's the T-shirt we have.
Check it out, baby. Everybody. Right, giving you guys some love, cause I believe it was Jamie and Lance Green both came out with articles where they did a NFL draft prospect for the Flyers. Both great reads, by the way. Oh my gosh. And Jamie had some picks and Lance had some picks. And I really liked Lance's actually Jamie's too. They both had really good guys on there. But I think for the most part, the guys that they had on there were taller and heavier.
Yeah, Verling is another guy. There's a guy, Evan Verling, who's not as big but plays kind of a TK-ish-esque game. So
he's the one he was the only one that was like
to get a I don't know if they put him in there. They might have put him in there. I didn't get a chance to read that. He's just a guy I always liked. And then I'm sure somebody included Luke Tuck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because he fits into the Flyers system very well. Alex Tuck is dominating for the Knights right now. Brother. But moving on, we have Scott Lawton moving all the way up lines because of him turning into what now, I mean, we knew this guy was offensively skilled. He scored in the juniors. He just was a guy that wasn't the fleetest of foot at the highest level. And then he went down in 17 to work on his skating. It got better, and as it got better, he became a great defensive forward that chipped in on offense. And now it seems like his offense is starting to come in more and more with AV now, and just how he progresses as a player, because he progressed a little bit differently than most, changing his game up to be in a defensive first. And now he's good on both ends. So that's a huge plus for the Flyers, because you almost have now Couturier good on both ends. Lotz good on both ends that helps pitch in. Pitlick's also in the PK. Knack came up and has been on the PK and power play. So you have all these guys that match up on both ends to be flexible. That's what really helps this team. The Canadians do not have that as much with you got a guy like Gallagher, who is a tenacious type player that's fun to watch. You got
plays that playoff style.
You got Suzuki, and that's one of their only guys other than like an Armia and a Byron. A lot of their guys who's played very well so far do not play the most playoff style. Obviously, you have a guy like, you're going to have guys like Danault, Domi, but this is a team that doesn't have the deep line share of the Flyers, because it's not going to match up as they go down their line pairings. It's also not going to match up as they're up their line pairings, because you have Ben Sherratt with Shea Weber. That adds a lot of size. So that's going to be interesting. But we have a much quicker first line than those two. And then you got Kulak and Petrie, our second line defense. I love Jeff Petrie.
That's going to be the matchup right there. No. The one you said first. The one you said first is going to be Provorov and who was the guy?
Provorov and Niski.
No. Yeah, but the guy from the Canadians.
Oh, Weber?
Yeah. I think that's going to be the matchup right there. That's going to be the key matchup right there because I think that AV is going to have those guys because we have last change. And he's going to be playing that matchup game. You know what I mean? So I think that first matchup that you said right there with the Weber and the Provorov, because Weber's going to be taking out our top line and Provorov is going to be on their top line.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Beyond that, we beat them in defensive lines because Jeff Petrie's a very solid, very good defenseman. Actually, Kulak's a solid defenseman, but our second line defense outmatches that second line defense because our second line defense is more touted because we have usually Myers and Sanheim there, and I'm assuming it was
even our third. Even our third pairing is better than their second
Hag
pairing,
and Braun, which is either Ghost or Braun or Hag and Braun. Usually Hag and Braun, yeah.
Yeah, and then, or even if it was Hag and Ghost. Even if it was Hag and Ghost, I still think that would match up better to their second defensive pairing than ours. So,
exactly. And then Victor Mete has been solid. He hasn't been what they hoped they would fully get from him yet, but he's been a very solid defenseman. And Xavier Quillette is nothing special. He's probably a guy that really shouldn't be starting. He should probably be your seventh defenseman. That's that we definitely beat them on that bottom line there. So they got carried really by top play. Duran looked pretty solid in the series. Carried like a beast. Shea Weber looked like a beast. Jeff Petrie looked like a beast. And picking up Ben Sherratt was huge for them because of more size and a playoff ample defenseman. The problem is they don't have speed. The Flyers know how to play at a quicker game as well as so they're going to need guys like Jesper. Like they would need guys like Kakaniemi to really step up for them. And
Whoa!
Guys in to really
Did you just say that name like you just rolled it out? Say that again.
So they're going to need all of them to pull it together, and they're quicker guys to actually step up. And obviously, Drouin's also a quicker skater. Tatar is, but Tatar hasn't been as impressive since he's been on the Canadian, so he would have to up his ante a bit. That's the only way they're going to be. I personally believe I'll go before you, but I personally believe this series will be 5 games. We'll be able to beat Montreal. I don't know how you feel about this entire series and what your key factors are also.
Okay. Key factors, I think, are one of the things that you said right there. Our top line against their top line. Their top D against our top D. And then once you get past that, okay, because you pointed it out, once you get past the top pairings and the top Ds and everything else, we have much more in the way of talent, skill, and speed.
Exactly.
To match up better against Montreal than they do for their second, third, and fourth lines. It doesn't matter what line they want to throw together out there. The only line that's going to be anything hardcore is going to be their top line. After that, I think we match up even on their top line. I think we could – honestly, I would like to see Couturier out there with their top line. Or not Couturier, the second line, Lawton out there because of exactly what you said. He went down in 17. He came back and was protected, thank God, and turned it around. And now he is a full-on 200-foot player.
Yeah.
Okay? And I would not have a problem seeing him on the top line. Would not have a problem with that at all.
AP also adjusts the matchups because Bunneman talked about it in his interview. He ended up getting put with one of the top lines when we played Pittsburgh and another. So whenever he's in and he looks really good, AV tends to swap. But so whoever's really looking great, he always tends to put with those lines.
Gives him the ice time.
Yeah, he always adjusts in game. So like another guy that could end up doing that is like how we say Nax, probably is our best player on the forecheck, honestly. If he's being really good with that, he might be a guy that if a guy like Gallagher or Tatar's having a good game, if you move him up to guard him, might piss him off for a couple of shifts, and then they'll throw him off
just
a bit.
Just put TK on him.
So that'll be a guy. Well, yeah, TK's pretty good at defense now, but I think Knack, because he like more knows he's not TK, worked more on that part of his game. But I think this is going to be a fun series to watch, mainly because of the goalie matchup. Other than that,
that's what I think.
Yeah, other than that, I don't think Montreal matches up against us.
Agreed. Yeah, that's my key points right there. Our top line against their top line, our goalie matchup, which is what I said in the beginning, in the opening, was I think our goalie, even though, look, I think Carey Price, he's playing really well. He's played out of his mind. He put the team on his back and was able to say, no, Pittsburgh, you're not going to beat us. But I don't think he's going to be able to do that against us. And I think our firepower is going to be too much for him. And I think that, I don't know, man. I don't want to say it, but all right, I'll say 5 games. I don't want to say it, but look, I'm leaning that way, but I'm going to say 5.
yeah. But anyway, I think that about wraps up our video on premiering this series, looking into the Canadiens and Flyers as we get into that matchup tomorrow, primetime. What are the 8 o'clock game, everybody?
That's right, baby.
And the Flyers are going to take on those Montreal pesky Canadiens as we try to beat them in the first round of the playoffs. Had some very fun playoff series. Remember when Richie scored on Jari Halak when he came 500 feet out of the net?
Yeah, boy.
So Carey Price ain't going to do that, though. So
no.
This is going to be a very fun series to watch. Keep watching all exciting hockey. If you're not watching the games today, everybody, you're making a huge mistake because they're very exciting. So keep watching them. This has been the Grittiest Take. And Steele, I'll turn it over to you for some of your channels and the great website you have to share that with everybody.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you very much for having me on here. It's great being with the great Joe Boric. This guy is a great writer. You guys really need to be following him. You need to be hitting the subscribe button and the like button. He is the main man, pots and pans. I kid you not. You can check him out on our website, www.steelflyers. You can check out all his links, all his great videos, all his great podcasts, and all of his great writing. But the Steel Flyers website, one-stop shop. You can follow me on Steel Flyers website and also on Twitter at Steel Flyers 52. Thanks very much for having me, bro.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome. And you can follow our podcast at Sports Fanatic News on YouTube, Sports PHANATIC with the P for the Philly Fanatic, and then True Philadelphian Sportscast spelled out on Instagram and Tumblr, True_Philly Sport on Twitter. And that's where you can find our podcasts and all that. I'm Joe Boric. That's Steel Flyers for the Grittiest Take. This has been our Canadiens and Flyers preview. Let's go Flyers anytime, anywhere, baby. Let's bring that cup back to Philadelphia.
Yeah, baby. Let's go.
Peace out, everyone.